We must know that the sufferings we undergo as Christians is what proves that we belong to Jesus. Whatever you suffer as a Christian, because you are a Christian, not because you're a human being. There are sufferings that come to us as human beings. There are sufferings that come out of carelessness. There are sufferings that come even to you because you're a businessman, because you're a businesswoman. But even in that, as a Christian businessman, as a Christian businesswoman, there is also suffering that comes to you because you are a Christian. St. Paul is telling us that if we endure such sufferings, that it proves that we are Christians. Jesus Christ himself in Matthew's Gospel chapter 16 verse 24 says that whoever wants to be his disciple must forget himself and pick up his cross on daily basis and follow him. And he's talking about picking up suffering, and not just any suffering, but the sufferings that come to us as Christians. The sufferings that come to us as Christians. You must identify such sufferings and glory in them. In 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 12, St. Paul warns us that whoever wants to live a righteous life must be persecuted. If you want to live a righteous life, you must be persecuted. You will suffer persecution. Once you decide for Christ, even your body will persecute you. Your body, your life will persecute you. It will be reacting against your decision. Your family members will persecute you. Even the so-called friends will persecute you. Let alone the enemies. Your environment will persecute you. That is why Jesus Christ is saying, pick up your cross and follow me, because there is no way you will decide to be his disciple and you don't have a cross. Persecutions will come, as St. Paul says in 2 Timothy, because you have decided to live a righteous life. He also said in Galatians chapter 6 verse 17, that the scars he has on his body is a proof that he's a slave of Jesus. You remember St. Paul is one of those that actually saw suffering. St. Paul's suffering also helped to purify him. You know, he was a persecutor too. He was a persecutor of Christians. But his suffering as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus Christ, was a purification for him. So the sufferings we undergo as Christians is also a purification for us. It's also a purification. He had scars everywhere. He has suffered 24 strokes of the cane. He suffered shipwreck. He suffered molestation. He went somewhere to preach, and they had to stone him, and he fainted. They thought that he was dead. That was in Athens. They thought that he was dead. But when the believers came around him, he got up again. Scars was all over him. Evidence of the fact that he's slave of Jesus. If we claim that we are Christians, can you show your scars? Can you show those signs that shows that you're a slave of Christ? The pains you suffered. What has happened to you that prove that you are a slave of Christ? Or can you show the bruises and the wounds you are nursing that shows that you are a slave of Christ? Many of us, in many ways, at times complain even about those situations that prove us. Those situations that make us Christians. We complain about them. And we also desire at times that the cross should be taken away. Suffering is not an easy thing, especially when you are suffering innocently. When you are suffering for what you know nothing about. When you are suffering because you are a Christian, because they see you as not belonging. It's always very painful. The pain is less where you suffer the consequences of your action. But the pain is more when you suffer for what you did not do innocently. And that is where the Christian suffering comes. And some of us at times, as I said, we want God to remove the cross. Well, pains, as I said, are not palatable. Jesus Christ himself said to God at the Garden of Gethsemane, Father, if possible, remove this cup of suffering. Remove this cross. But he ended up saying, not my will, let your will be done. Jesus Christ said to them, if the world loved me, it will love you. But as it stands, you do not belong to the world. So the world will persecute you. When you remember that you are suffering because you do not belong, you don't belong to the environment, you are not an indigene, then you know that you are suffering innocently because of Christ. And you should not pray that cross should be removed. Because every suffering you bear as a child of God has merit. St. Peter, in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 17, says that there is blessing for every suffering, every righteous suffering. The Lord said, come to me, all of you who are overburdened. He didn't say, come to me, all of you who are burdened, or who carry cross, or who carry load. He said, come to me, all of you who are overburdened. That means that you must be burdened. He said, I will give you rest. He will give you rest by removing the excess burden. Because he also said, shoulder my yoke and learn from me. That means that you must shoulder his yoke. Yoke is also a suffering like cross. Shoulder my yoke and learn from me. For my yoke is easy and my burden light.